Hello friends, a very warm welcome to Ansarkari. I am Vikas Bhardwaj. Continuing our understanding of different topics and subtopics as discussed by Weber and his immense contribution in society as far as creation of sociological theory is concerned, here we are going to see how he is going to see polity as a social setting. What kind of dimensions he is bringing, what kind of core arguments he is bringing, because rationalization is a very important pillar and a base. That is why we are saying this topic as polity and rationalization. The core argument is rationalization of political system is linked to rationalization of law. We have already done law, as we have already discussed in our previous lecture, that how he is seeing legal development both in primitive and also in modern societies, because he is saying that there is a rationalization of law, and ultimately the rationalization of law is going to make sure that entire social system becomes rationalized. He is giving the premise that rational polity cannot function with an irrational legal system. Both the things must move towards rationalization. And most important element which you must be writing in your answers is that leaders are not going to consciously rationalize law because they are impelled by administrative demands. Think about your village, think about the society, think about your residential area. There may be so many things which according to law technically must not be done, whether it is about garbage, whether it is about sanitation, whether it is about street light, whether it is about marketplace. Law must be saying something else, but society is behaving in some different way. So the leader, the political leader, is not going to speak law to the masses. He is going to speak about what is feasible. And speaking about technically about the law, what is possible and not will be the last resort. So rationalization is driven by structural, that is state apparatus. What kind of finance are you having? What kind of policy making are you having? What kind of bureaucracy are you having? And cultural forces. What kind of society are you? What kind of religious, what kind of social values are you having? What is the level of education? What is the level of literacy? What kind of education you are putting on? What is the economic strata, as we have seen our economic lecture also? Please bring those ideas here. So, according to Weber, definition is a community whose social action is aimed at subordinating to orderly domination a territory. That means there must be a clear-cut structure, rule of law, and the conduct of persons within it must also be run by rule of law through readiness to resort to physical force, including normally force of arms, if the things are not going in a right way, if anyone is breaking the law. So that means what our fundamental duties are speaking. Weber is saying that can only lead to more rationalization, and in order to bring rationalization, there can be a person can resort or state can resort to a physical force, and state can also take tough action, coercive action. Do you think it is happening in India? Do you think that it is the direction in which we are moving? Do you think different kind of social elements with respect to polity that are there, whether it is political corruption, whether it is about corruption in developmental works, or whether it is about digitization, where do you think we are moving? You have to think and bring that answer. So polity is not universal. Basically, it is not a universally rational phenomena. It depends upon so many forces. So whenever you are not going to have a clear cut structure, clear cut rule of law, or a clear cut constitutional structure, then households, clans, or economic groups, they cannot create a such rationalized political structure. So that is why one need basic elements towards the direction. So how this development had taken place since ancient times according to Weber. So violent social action was the key. Violent social action, like we speak about our, if I just correlate with the Indian society, that in the Vedic times there were raids to capture cows, raids to capture resources. That is in primordial early societies. Regional control, so I mean to say, regional control over violence evolved gradually. That means there will be monopoly of legitimate violence. What do you mean by monopoly of legitimate violence? You have Rajan, you have king, you have an army, you have a standing army. That's how it is. So primitive societies, they lacked what? They lacked rational ordering of legislation, because there is no clear cut democratic structure, though we have elements of democracy as we have seen in our polity series in Vedic society and also in the republics like Vaishali Republic. But then what we are speaking here is very, very different and a broad level. Police, so Mahadandanayak and Dannayak, justice, you have Nyay, and then administration and military. These these structures, when we speak about the modern times, then in India, they all got evolved, and the roots of the modern Indian legislation, modern Indian police or justice or administration or military, it goes to the British rule. So that is why Western polity, it is evolving through differentiation because they were not colonized. And the rational ordering of these functions, it all depending upon the resources that have been exploited from Asian and African societies and then pumped in the Europe. And that's how there is subordination under single rational ordered force, whether it is France, whether it is UK, and rest of the Europe, and then US also later on. So Weber's method is to tracking, or you can say tracing polity from primitive to modern forms. He is linking social structure with individual action orientations. Individual action orientation here means individual is a prototype. He is a representative of a lot of other individuals who are doing the same thing. So that's how it becomes social in approach. Modern political associations rest on prestige and legitimacy granted by members. That's how in India also, when you speak about modern India, then you have Raja Ram Mohan Roy coming up with Banga Bhasha Prakashini Sabha, first political association in India, Banga Bhasha Prakashini Sabha. And then you have East Indian Association, Indian Association, and that's how Surendranath Banerjee, and then finally coming of the Congress. Prestige, definitely prestige and legitimacy granted by those members who are going to meet when the first Congress meeting is taking place at Gokuldas Tejpal Sanskrit Pathshala in Mumbai. And that's how you can just correlate. So modern sociologist perspective, if we say, then rationalization and bureaucracy, as we have discussed already in detail in our core fundamental lectures, it is very important. Weber's rational polity is obviously a bureaucratic state, and that's how iron cage. Everything is so efficient, everything is so mechanized, everything is so much clear. No emotional, or you can say no unwanted social element is present. So bureaucracy ensures efficiency, it is predictability and calculability. That is what is happening through digitization. That is what is our GST 2.0 is talking about. That is what we are speaking about, plugging the inefficiencies in subsidies. And it is also restricting individual freedom and fosters disenchantment. That is why we speak about the privacy rules, data privacy rules. Government is speaking, and that's how Parliament is also asking that okay, give me your feedback, and then only we can move forward. So the state and the monopoly of violence is very important. It's a very, very important and debatable concept because it's the state only which can, where the word violence can also be interpreted differently. But the state is the only power which must have the all coercive power. Charles Tilly, if we take this quote, then war made the state and state made the war. That's what he is saying. So that is how uh, Weber is also speaking. So it is echoing Weber's ideas. Monopoly over violence is central to the state formation. You can always quote in your answers, and you can quote this quote also. Michael Mann, he is also discussing between despotic versus infrastructure power. So you think about the big great cities in the US, in China, or even in Dubai. Why they are such a strong, such a uh, formal and such a kind of a monotonous great buildings and infrastructure. That's how it is because the state is very powerful, and you can think of the same way in China also. India is not moving in the same way because India's plurality, India's depth, India's diversity, and India's its own deep individual cultural values, they are making these things difficult. So rationalization is strengthening infrastructural power, whether it is physical infrastructure, whether it is human infrastructure, whether it is you know resources and so forth. So when we see in terms of the global and the post-colonial critiques, then post-colonial scholars argue that the Weber's model is Eurocentric, as we have already discussed, and I've given you some critical elements also. In India, states rationalization coexists with traditional authority of panchayats, traditional authority of clans, traditional authority of caste groups, whether it is Nishad group in Bihar and also in Uttar Pradesh, whether it is Bishnoi Samaj, whether it is Yadav Samaj, these caste networks are there. And similarly, informal politics, you can say Agarwal Sabha, then you are having trader associations, then you are having builder associations, then you are having, you know, informal economy if we speak about, then you have workers union. So there's so many elements, so many amazing elements are there. Partha Chatterjee, if we say his quote, the modern state in a post-colonial society is fragmented and it is not fully rationalized as far as Asia and Africa is concerned. We are moving towards it, but then we have our own conditions, we have on our predictions and so forth. When we say contemporary relevance, what is the contemporary relevance when we say Weber is explaining his elements on polity through rationalization, that it is expansion of administrative law, that we also agree, it is codification law, that is already happening, and professionalization of bureaucracy, that is also there. But already I have discussed with you in so much details that over rationalization is leading to alienation. It will be leading to rigidity. It will be leading to loss of democratic vitality. That vital element which is actually going to give insight and also going to provide solutions to individuals' problems and social direction. It will be missing. Because the rise of technology and surveillance states as a modern extension of Weber's thesis is taken in a one direction or in a unilateral direction, then future is going to be completely meaningless. It will lose its vitality. Let's see three questions. Does rationalization strengthens democracy, I'm asking you, or does it trap citizens in an iron cage bureaucracy? What is your opinion? You have to write 150 to 200 words answer. Similarly, can India's polity be called rationalized when informal networks and patronage politics remain strong? I'm just again, I'm arguing with you. I'm putting questions to you. You must write these answers and try to understand, and then only we can move forward. Is Weber's Eurocentric model adequate for explaining non-Western state formations? Non-Western state formation. Think about Africa. Think about civil wars in Africa. Think about what is happening in Sudan. Go and check out. Think about what is happening in different Central African and other, if I say, Horn of Africa nations. Think about Asia. In Asia, also think about what is happening in Thailand. Why again and again it is a picture. Think about Myanmar. Think about Afghanistan. Think about India. Think about China and so forth. And then only you'll be able to do justice. So we have discussed in very brief, but at the same time in a very vital way. And solid foundation can be there if you want to understand this topic and make its notes, revise it, and then get back whenever you have any other issue so that you can get success with all your efforts in the right directions. Thank you very much. Keep working and keep moving in such a smart way that your all efforts leads to your success and glory. That is always possible when one works in a right direction. Thank you very much.